Good morning, everyone. It's so wonderful to have you all with us. Anthony will share our prelude now, and then we'll get started. Good morning, everyone, and a very warm welcome to our virtual Chalice community. I'm Reverend Nika, and I'm so grateful that you've all joined us here this morning at Chalice to share in fellowship and sacred time together. Welcome to you all, and a special hello to those of you who are new here with us. Today, we also welcome other Unitarian Universalist congregations in the area from San Luis Obispo, Galita, Santa Barbara, Santa Paula, Ventura, and Bakersfield. Welcome to you all. And their ministers will be participating in this service with us. And welcome to those of you joining us on Facebook Live too. We're so glad you're all here with us. We are so grateful to be able to live, work, and worship on the sacred ancestral land of the Chumash. We've come together today to share in the service about racial justice with our guest speaker, Dr. Shelly Tochluk. Shelly Tochluk is a professor of education at Mount St. Mary's University in Los Angeles, and she's the author of 2 books, Witnessing Whiteness, The Need to Talk About Race and How to Do It, and Living in the Tension, the Quest for a Spiritualized Racial Justice. She also volunteers with Aware LA, a community of white anti-racist people organizing and educating themselves to take action for racial justice. Shelly is also going to be teaching our 4-week Witnessing Whiteness program, which is going to be happening online during April, beginning April 1st, which we hope that many of you will join us for. We still have a few spaces left, and the link to more information on that workshop is going to be in the chat now. We invite you to register as soon as you can after the service. Each month, we at Chalice explore a different theme as a community, and this month's theme is commitment. I know many of you other congregations also do the Soul Matters themes. So today we're going to explore how we can all come together in our commitment to racial justice, even when we're approaching it from many different perspectives. So I invite us all to take a deep breath now and just get centered. And to call us into worship, I share a reading by Reverend Christian Schmidt called Wake Up. Let us wake up. Not just from the Sunday morning exhaustion, from the wish for a few more drowsy minutes in bed, especially during a time change. Let us wake up to this world we live in, to its beauty and wonder, and also to its tragedy and pain. We must wake up to this reality that not all in our world have what we do, however much or little that is. We must wake up to the idea that our wholeness, our lives are only as complete as the lives of those around us, of those we are inextricably tied to in a great web of mutuality, of which all of us are a part. We must #stay woke, in the words of our friends and colleagues involved in Black Lives Matter, working every day for racial justice in our country. Let us wake up, let us stay awake, and let us #stay woke. And now, in this time and place, my friends, let us worship the sacredness of life together. For our opening centering song this month, we sing Be Ours a Religion with words by our Unitarian forefather and abolitionist Theodore Parker. I invite you to use it as an opportunity to center yourself in this moment.
Be ours a religion which like sunshine goes everywhere, its temple saints, its shrine a good heart, its creed all truth, its ritual works of be ours a religion which like sunshine goes everywhere, its temple all saints, its shrine a good heart, its creed all truth, its ritual works of
Reverend Betty?
I'm here, but I'm not highlighted. I'm just spotlighted. So I'm wondering,
Go ahead and speak and they will take care of it.
okay, fine. And my problem is, okay, there we go. Good morning. My name is the Reverend Betty Stapleford, and I serve as the Affiliate Community Minister for Social Justice in the Universalist Unitarian Church of Santa Paula. And I am the Minister Emerita of Chalice Church, the one where we are worshiping this morning. Welcome to Chalice, where all people of goodwill are embraced and everyone works together to create a world filled with compassion, justice, equity, and love. We are Unitarian Universalist. We strive to honor the inherent worth and dignity of every person. We value each other's ethnic and religious backgrounds. We encourage each person's spiritual growth and recognize that we may each pursue it in our own way. We respect a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Values and deeds are the keys to our gathering, not the color of our skin, the gender of those we love, or the pronouns we use. My pronouns are she, her, hers. Please stay through to the end of the service when we'll share about some of the many opportunities to be involved here at Chalice or in your other congregations. And if you're wondering how long we'll be together in this service, plan on around 75 minutes. We're going to share music, songs, readings, meditation, joys and sorrows, and of course, a message from Shelly Tochluk. We're so glad you're joining us today.
I'm the Reverend Tamara Casanova Suzuki, and it is my joy to serve Live Oak Unitarian Universalist Congregation in Goleta. Each week in Unitarian Universalist, congregations around the world, we light a chalice, which is a symbol of light within all of us, a symbol of the hope we seek and the justice we strive for and the love we share. If you have a chalice at home, I invite you now to light yours and listen to the words of the Reverend Rebecca Parker. Let us covenant with one another to keep faith with the source of life, knowing that we are not our own. Earth made us. Let us covenant with one another to keep faith with the community of resistance, never to forget that life can be saved from that which threatens it by even small bands of people choosing to put into practice an alternative way of life. And let us covenant with one another to seek for an ever deeper awareness of that which springs upwardly in us. Even when our hearts are broken by our own failure or the failure of others cutting into our lives, even when we have done all we can and life is still broken, there is a universal love that has never broken faith with us and never will. This is the ground of our hope and the reason we can be bold in seeking to fulfill the promise.
Thank you, Reverend Tamara. It's our tradition also at Chalice that we light our earth chalice for us to remember our connection to the earth and all living things. Our earth chalice was built by our children to invite us to commit to caring for the sustainability of our planet and of our children's future. And finally, we light our chalice for peace and justice. We light this flame for an end to violence, war, racial injustice, and oppression of all kinds. May we live in a world of peace, justice, and equity for all. Please join us now to sing our opening hymn, Come, Come, Whoever You Are, and welcome all those joining us on our Facebook live stream too.
Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer of worship and lover of living, cause is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer of worship, whoever
Hello, I am the Reverend Dana Worsnot, minister of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Ventura. Today, the Reverend Julia Hamilton from the Unitarian Society of Santa Barbara and I are sharing a powerful and important story. Important enough that this is now the third time in less than a year that the good people of UU Ventura have heard this story in worship. And it becomes now a shared narrative for all 6 of our congregations in our cluster. I was first taken in this story not as much by the words of Kwame Alexander than by the illustrations of Kadir Nelson. I first discovered his work when I took a pilgrimage to the Negro League's Hall of Fame in Kansas City when General Assembly was there a few years back. And in that museum, there's a painting by Nelson that captured a simple moment of the baseball players and the Kansas City Monarchs in the dugout during a game. There was so much power and dignity and a sense of perseverance in those Black athletes. I had trouble tearing myself away. The images that follow glow with that same power. So please listen well to the words and take in the beautiful artwork. The Undefeated, written by Kwame Alexander with illustrations by Kadir Nelson.
This is for the unforgettable, the swift and sweet ones who hurled history and opened a world of possible.
The ones who survived America by any means necessary, and the ones who didn't.
This is for the undeniable, the ones who scored with chains on one hand and faith in the other.
This is for the unflappable, the sophisticated ones who box adversity and tackle vision.
Who shine their light for the world to see and don't stop till the break of dawn.
This is for the unafraid, the audacious ones who carried the red, white, and weary blues on the battlefield to save an imperfect union.
The righteous ones marching who sang, "We shall not be moved."
Because Black lives matter.
This is for the unspeakable.
This is for the unspeakable.
This is for the unspeakable.
This is for the unlimited, unstoppable ones. The dreamers and doers who swim across the big sea of our imagination and show us the majestic shores of the promised land.
The Wilma Rudolphs, the Muhammad Alis, the Althea Gibsons, the Jesse Owenses, the Jordans and the LeBrons, the Serenas and the Cheryls, the Reese Whitleys, and the undiscovered.
This is for the unbelievable, the we real cool ones. This is for the unbending, the Black as the night is beautiful ones.
This is for the underdogs and the uncertain, the unspoken, but no longer untitled.
This is for the undefeated. This is for you.
And you, and you, and you.
This is for us.
When Dana shared this book with me, I was struck by the beautiful artwork and portraits, and that I did not recognize all of the names and faces of the people on these pages. So, for example, I had to look up Reese Whitley and learned more about this incredible young swimmer. Are there any names that you didn't know as we read this story today? This book is a beautiful invitation to learn more about our shared history. And so thank you, Dana, for sharing it with all of us.
Hello, everyone. I am Reverend Rod Richards, proud and pleased to serve as minister of Unitarian Universalist San Luis Obispo. and it is my great pleasure to be with you all today. And I am going to let you in on a little secret. Here is an example of one of the ways that ministers, I and my beloved colleagues, entertain one another. We were invited recently in a Facebook post to share stewardship drive themes for when we are feeling a little punchy. Themes that we maybe wouldn't actually use in real life. I will leave most of these to your imagination, and I will not be breaking anyone's confidentiality, but I have decided to share mine with you all. Stewardship drive theme. Money talks. Have you heard what it's saying about you? And though I say you, I am really also talking about me. Money talks. What is it saying about me, about my values, about my commitments? What is it saying on my behalf? I can talk about wanting our faith to become radically inclusive, justice-centered, multiracial, and multi-generational. But when my money talks, does it confirm that commitment on my part? I can talk about wanting to dismantle structures of white supremacy in our society and with our very institutions. But when my money talks, will it back me up? Money is certainly not the only way to speak my values and to honor my commitments, but it is one way. Money talks. The good news is that we can choose what it says. Executive Director of Black Lives of Unitarian Universalism, Lena K. Gardner, once said that the power and promise of Unitarian Universalism is waking up to meet fear and hate with radical imagination, transformative partnership, resilience, and joy. We make it possible through our commitment and generosity. Indeed, we do. Money talks. Let it speak of our highest aspirations today by giving generously to Blue.
Hello, I'm Marche Greer, and I'm an organizing collective board member and communications director for Black Lives of Unitarian Universalism, also known as Blue. Blue is a Unitarian Universalist community created by and for Black people. A small group of Black UU organizers founded Blue in 2015. They knew that Black UUs needed a place to be unapologetically Black, unapologetically spiritual, and unapologetically liberated. I've been excited to witness Blue transform from an idea into a thriving, life-giving spiritual community. Our Blue members, who we call Blue Beloveds, can count on us to create containers for deep, meaningful connection that puts the Black experience at the center. We have worship twice a month for Black UUs and other Black folks who share our values. We host regular craft activities, conversations, and elder wisdom sharing sessions for children, youth, and their caregivers through our Blueberries and Berry Youth Ministries. In 2019, we hosted the Harper Jordan Symposium, where we engaged the complex histories and experiences that inform Black Unitarian Universalist theology. Blue also organizes to change the material conditions of Black lives, while providing the political education people need to ground their organizing in the lessons and legacies of Black liberation struggles. During our Babies in Bailout organizing, we raised money for national bail funds and provided resources that connected mass incarceration with the oppression of Black mothers and their families. As part of the Blue Northside Housing Cooperative Initiative,
our newest organizing project, we will empower single-parent Black and Indigenous families to be homeowners in North Minneapolis. Our organizational goals are expanding the power and capacity of Black UUs within our faith, providing support, information, and resources for Black Unitarian Universalists, and justice making and liberation through our faith. When you donate to Blue, you are making this life-saving, life-changing work possible. Thank you for your continued generosity and support.
You may text GIVE to the number that will appear in the chat box. There it is. Please indicate whether your donation is to help with the special collection or whether, if you're a member of this congregation, whether it's for your pledge here. Or you can go to the website at chaliceu.org and click on the giving link and then on the donate link and go to the drop-down menu and click on the type of donation of your choice: pledge fulfillment, special collection, or gift. While we pass our virtual germ-free basket, we will listen to Billy Porter and Stephen Stills sing "For What It's Worth." Thank you for your generosity. The offering will now be given and gratefully received.
There's something happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there telling me I got to beware. Think it's time we start. Children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. Battle lines being drawn. Nobody's right if everybody's wrong. Young people speaking their minds, getting so much resistance from behind. We gotta stop. Children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. Carry
You were all lucky I was muted because I couldn't help singing along with that. Please join me now in gratitude for your gifts. We give thanks for the gifts and the givers, and ask that we may use this offering wisely and well. May these gifts help us nurture spiritually courageous people who transform the world through justice and compassion. Blessed be.
Thank you all for your generosity. So we gather from all over the world as a beloved community, each bringing with us our own joys and our own sorrows, each finding comfort and connection as we reach out to one another virtually. Claudia is going to place stones in the water that create ripples, which remind us that what touches one of us actually touches us all. So you may write your joys, gratitudes, or concerns in the chat box, or email them to me during the week before the service so that we may honor them here together. There's so many of us here today. I invite you to lift up those joys and concerns of greatest importance to you that you feel everyone needs to know about. Chat is not open on Facebook, I'm sorry, although maybe it is, I'm not sure. If so, maybe someone will send me the messages from Facebook Live. At the end, we're going to sing a brief refrain together to hold those sharing in our love and care. And for those of you who know this song, we are going to sing the word breathing instead of walking, with COVID reminding us all of the value of our breath, as well as honoring the fact that breathing together is something that we all do on this journey of life. We're going to sing breathing, breathing with you. Breathing with you is my prayer. So on that note, let's all take a deep breath. And now I invite you to write your joys or gratitudes in the chat box. And as you write them, I will read them and we will drop stones in for you. So Tochluk Hammer writes, a joy that I can walk and dance again, albeit not at the same time. That's wonderful news, Tochluk. And Hassel writes, thank you to the woman volunteers who bake for the residents of my senior community. That's wonderful. Hamlin Matthew writes, India Anderson says she appreciates the forum. David Davis writes, I received my second COVID vaccination last week. I'm going to put my glasses on so I can see a little better. There we go. I want to celebrate the fact that all of us are here together. So many Unitarian Universalists on the Central Coast and beyond here together. What a treat that is. And then Kristen Ott writes prayers for my daughter and her preemie baby in Arkansas, who are both doing well. So glad to hear that. That is good news indeed. And I'm just going to wait a couple more moments to see if there are any other joys or gratitudes in our chat box, and then we'll sing. Aitana writes, I visited my friend Jamie yesterday through a window. She couldn't respond to me, but she and I held eye contact a lot as I told her how much I love her and miss her. Oh, that's wonderful, Aitana. And Jim Merrill writes, we have lost PSWD past president, and that goes into our sorrows, Jim. We will share that in our sorrows, Michael Hart. Claudia Barton shares, Rick gets his final vaccine this afternoon. That's great news. And we have a couple of sorrows here. So I think let's lift up all of these joys and gratitudes as we sing together now. And thank us for our forebears. Breathing, breathing with you. Breathing with you is my prayer. There are a couple more joys that came in. I see Harold Hill wrote, it's a joy seeing that Marianne Kastner has recovered from COVID and is on Zoom now with us. That is great news indeed. And Susan Norton writes, thanks to all in Ventura County who will have moved us to the red tier on Wednesday. A joy. Yes, and we're hoping to go to the red tier in Santa Barbara County on Tuesday too. So that's another joy. And Ken and Nancy Beiser write that they're grateful for the rain and snow. All right, and now I will share our sorrows and concerns. First of all, we have lost our Pacific Southwest District President Michael Hart to cancer, and we have several people here mourning him. He was a member of the Studio City congregation. I knew him there. He was a dear man, so dedicated to our faith, and we will definitely miss him in our midst. We send love to his family. And Reverend Betty Stapleford writes, please keep Charles Ngete in Kenya in your prayers. He's in great danger as a gay man. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing, Reverend Betty. We also mourn the loss of Breonna Taylor as she was sleeping in her apartment a year ago yesterday. And together, collectively, we mourn our 1 year of COVID lockdown, meeting virtually now for a year. We miss one another, being able to hug each other and see each other in person. We're grateful that we can come together in this way. And then Kendra Mellinger shares that this week marks the 2-year anniversary of her husband Mike and I both losing our mothers to cancer. Mike's 80-year-old father in Northern California has been in the hospital for 4 weeks with a post-surgery difficulty as well. So we hold your family in our hearts, Kendra. Gloria Liggett writes, gratitude to the young people who sat at the San Marcos Preserve to save our sacred land. Absolutely. And Priscilla Marcus writes, my thoughts are with the brave protesters in Myanmar. Our dear Leslie Cook is there. We also hold in our hearts all others who are sick, those who are homeless or jobless, all those who are suffering from fear, hunger, poverty, racism, or violence. May we together envision a world filled with more compassion, peace, safety, equity, and kindness. We lift up all those holding sorrows and concerns in our hearts as we sing together.
Breathing, breathing with you, breathing with you is my prayer.
And I now invite all of you at home to hold in mind the joys and concerns present in your own heart and life. We're going to continue singing, breathing with you while you either silently honor whatever stirs in your heart or you light a candle for whatever is important to you right now. We lift you all up as we sing together.
Breathing, breathing with you, breathing with you is my prayer.
Seeking,
Seeking, seeking with you, seeking with you is my prayer.
loving,
Loving, loving with you, loving with you is my prayer.
may everyone be held in the loving embrace of our congregation. And may that love and compassion ripple out to all who are hurting, both within and beyond these communities. Blessed be, and amen.
I'm the Reverend Maddie Sifontus. I serve our congregation in Santa Paula, the Universalist Unitarian Church of Santa Paula. Let us now share together in a time of meditation, reflection, or prayer. Take a moment now to feel your feet on the ground and notice how you are being supported by the ground beneath you, your chair, or your bed. Take a moment now to breathe deeply and center yourself. Let us take several breaths together, breathing together as a prayer as we make the commitment to take care of ourselves as we reach 1 year of these pandemic times. Breathe in as we feel into the anxiety that these times have brought to each of us. And breathe out the transformation of that anxiety into peace. Breathe in as we know somebody is calling each of our names as we do the difficult work of discernment. And breathe out as we feel the movement towards mutual liberation for all. Breathe in as we make ourselves fully present to this moment in time, feeling it in our very bodies. And let us breathe out and let go into a shared silence together, feeling the sense of possibility in our commitment to this work and to our communities here joined together. I'll ring the chime to begin, mark the beginning and again at the end of our silence, and then we'll sing together.
I'd like to thank Reverend Nika for inviting me to be with you today, and thank all of you and the ministers from these other congregations who have decided to allow me the opportunity to share some thoughts with you today. I titled this talk, Solidarity and Racial Justice: How do we stand together if we're not all together? Because events of the last few years have pushed us to take a stand. Religious leaders from various faiths and activists across the nation have called for a renewed sense of moral clarity. They ask us to stand firm on the side of love, on the side of what's right, humane, and just. We've had to take a stand against children in cages and a Muslim ban and toxic masculinity, gun violence, climate change denial, neo-Nazis, and police violence against Black people. There are a lot of people with a lot of clarity. Protesters have put their bodies on the line. And on each issue, we must consider, how will future generations judge us? Imagine yourself, years in the future, being asked, where were you when people took to the streets to defend Black life? What did you do about police violence? What did you do in the fight against white supremacy? Like many people, I hope that had I been alive during the time of slavery, that I would have had the heart and the courage to stand on the side of the abolitionists, that I would have been strong enough to take direct action. The correct response seems clear and straightforward. I recall the slogans I heard so often as a kid growing up in the 1980s, just do it, or just say no, depending on the issue. Nike and Nancy Reagan were the voices of my youth. Maybe it's because of that I have a visceral reaction when I hear explicit calls to take action. I want to be there. My inner voice says, just do it. From a moral perspective, it's that simple, isn't it? I remember watching a documentary about a climate activist from Portland a while back. There was a scene of him standing in front of an ExxonMobil gas station with a sign. In the scene, he's all by himself in the middle of the night, talking to the few motorists who were there filling up their tanks. He's taking action in response to the news that Exxon's own scientists knew about climate change. And at the same time, they were lying for years. So here's this man, all by himself, with a sign shaming the company, just trying to get some reaction from those around him. Eventually, he got the manager's reaction, who called the police, who then asked him to move off of their private property. And when he refused to move, he got arrested. And then, just a few days later, he showed up, did the same thing again. It was around Christmas, and so this time he showed up wearing a Santa suit, hanging stockings filled with coal on the gas pumps. The documentary goes on to show him engaged in more direct actions that break federal law. He ultimately joined with others in a coordinated effort to break into and shut down the various oil pipelines across multiple states to stop oil coming in from Canada. These activists knew they'd be arrested and prosecuted. As I watched this film, I found myself feeling two ways. I felt grateful that people like him are willing to take that kind of stand. And I also felt a little unnerved, wondering what it meant that I was still questioning their tactics. Have you ever had an experience like that, where you felt supportive of something in spirit, but critical of the implementation? In my own anti-racism practice, I don't always agree with the ideas or the actions proposed by my own group or our solidarity partners. Each time I ask myself, what's at the root of my resistance? Is it a reflection of my privilege? Is it okay that my perspective diverges from what's become a loud collective call from activists? What does it mean if I feel somewhat distanced from them? Have you ever felt torn in a similar way? All of this has made me wonder, how do we come together if many of us want to be supportive and continue to stand at a distance? And by we, at this moment, I'm talking about those of us who care about justice, the enough of us that Biden referred to in his inaugural address, who are necessary to push racial justice forward. Is it possible for enough of us to stand together in a way that could allow us to bring about something truly transformational? I'm asking this question because I've found myself conflicted. Over the last several years, I've watched some of my closest friends in anti-racism develop ideas that I question. Their analysis of social change movements has expanded, and with it, there's been a change in their focus and articulation of what it means to fight for racial justice. To be specific, I'm talking about a bunch of 20 and 30 somethings and a bunch of retirees. Some of them were part of shutting down the 405 freeway along with the LMLA. They protested in front of a former district attorney's office week after week for years, along with the family members of people who were killed by police. Their experiences and the relationships that have formed have led to a full-throated commitment to defunding and abolishing both the police as well as all prisons. Throughout this time, I felt some inner resistance. Did believing that Black Lives Matter mean that I had to become a police and prison abolitionist? Made me question my own moral clarity. Am I not sufficiently anti-racist? What do you do when people you respect, who you believe are working for the same ultimate goal, advocate for strategies or positions that lead you to feel a bit distanced from them? Have you ever experienced anything like this? How do you stay in relationship? How do you stand in solidarity with someone when you feel conflicted? And my first reaction was to be honest about my concerns. I questioned the practicality of it all. What would it mean to have no police, no place to keep dangerous people away from society? And I've done this work long enough to realize that when I start to feel a sense of immovability, assuredness, when objectives come really quickly, there's usually something I'm missing. So standing to form is often an indication that I'm stuck in my whiteness and I need to stretch. So I went to a number of meetings that pushed me out of my comfort zone. One was highly critical of nonviolent civil disobedience as practiced in the 1960s. Far from anything I'd ever heard before, this workshop asserted that the approaches that were used in the 1960s depended upon a type of respectability politics that allowed justice to be granted only for those who continue to play by the rules of white supremacy. This was also linked to an argument that immigration reform proposals that don't allow immigrants of all backgrounds and elements to deny them a path to citizenship, that those reform efforts are not worth supporting. And the rationale is that due to racial profiling, the criminalization of youth of color in urban cities, and the lack of justice in our systems, that even immigrants with criminal records should be included in a pathway to citizenship. The result of this stance is that any political agreement that supports only a segment of the immigrant population, like the Dreamers, it's not sufficiently inclusive. I attended another meeting where a presentation criticized activists throughout our history who advocated for a moderate or reformist agenda, deeming them more problematic than useful. All of this was happening a couple of years ago, and it coincided with me hearing a number of influential Black folks telling white people that liberal white people are far more dangerous to Black, Indigenous, and other peoples of color than far-right white supremacists. This was just at the time in 2018 where I was focusing a lot of my energy on the alt-right. I had started giving presentations about the recruitment strategies of white nationalists, and it concerned me to think that white people were being discouraged from paying attention to what I perceived as a major threat. I kept attending these meetings though, and one of them focused on the details of the Black Lives Matter platform. And it called for defunding and abolishing the police, rerouting the money toward community services. The workshop included a presentation highlighting a community in another country that has no police, but instead relies on community members to respond to one another using restorative justice practices. They handed out an 8-page history of policing that detailed policing's racist roots. All of this preceded the uprising last summer and the widespread calls to defund the police in the wake of George Floyd's murder. Just as many people felt stretched this past summer, at each of these meetings, I felt stretched. During each, I caught a glimpse of why my closest allies were shifting to a more radical position. Not only were they more proximal, closer to the consequences of police violence because of their connections to the victims' families, they had also been studying a history that I did not know. Their analysis had connected dots in ways that didn't make sense unless you were actually familiar with all of those dots. The radical vision of liberation and cultural transformation underlying their strategies became clearer and more understandable. As the daughter of a retired police officer, I can state unequivocally that the police abolition movement rests on a beautiful vision. The arguments for it are compelling, and stretching myself during the last few years is what prepared me to have some really difficult conversations with my dad last summer about the need to defund, if not completely abolish, the police. All of this has been true while I have continued to question practicality, while I've focused most of my energy elsewhere. Is it correct to say that I'm standing in solidarity if I'm not fully convinced that it would be wise to abolish the police entirely in the near future? If I continue to focus my attention on disrupting far-right extremists? How can we stand together if we're not all together? Two essential realizations have helped me break through some of this confusion. The first is that there's a difference between how I choose to participate and how I judge other people's actions. My initial reaction had confused the two. So I want to make sure this is clear, so I want to say it again. My primary confusion, the one that has eaten at me, has been about how I choose to participate, not about how others are taking action. What I realize is that my solidarity is in recognizing that there is no need for me to criticize the strategies of those fighting for their own liberation, or for that matter, those who are fighting in solidarity with them. It's not helpful. Just because I don't join all of their actions doesn't mean I'm going to act like those white moderates from the civil rights era who actively criticized and worked against the radicals of their time. In fact, being in solidarity means trying to limit that kind of division. I say this because I've become convinced that whatever progress we've made over the centuries in the US, it would not have happened without the radicals and their vision, their fight, the controversy they stirred up, and the resulting calls for people to take the stand, to take a side. This has prompted me to find a more stable stance for myself, one that is solid enough to hold the tensions that remain. I've accepted that there is truth within the radical position that calls for police abolition. That truth prompted me to lend my voice where I could authentically provide it, like going and doing deep canvassing work a year ago in support of Measure R in Los Angeles, which stopped the funding of new jails in LA County and increased the oversight of the Sheriff's Department. At the same time, though, the majority of my focus went toward presenting warnings about the dangers of the far right. Both need attention. What helped me resolve my inner conflict has been a shift of mind. It's from one that sees the world through a lens of either or to one of both and. This is more than just an idea. This is a way of walking through life. It's what's allowed me to recognize that because I stretched myself to understand the radical position, an important role I can play is helping other people to stretch. Joining the deep canvassing effort is what allowed me to help other moderate voices in my community find value in shifting our funding priorities, even if it didn't move them all the way to police abolition. A friend of mine, upon hearing a draft of this message I'm giving to you today, actually started laughing at me. She said, you know, what's hilarious is that not only did you react to your confusion by going to learn about the radical position, which you still have trouble accepting as realistic path sometimes, but you wrote a curriculum to help other people understand it too. And that's true. I did do that. One of the workshops that my co-facilitator and I will offer next month during the 4-part series focused on witnessing whiteness and developing an anti-racist practice, well, it did develop out of this process. And I say all of that because even while my efforts do not rise to the level of what Black Lives Matter Los Angeles calls white people to do, I am creating a place for myself as a bridge between the radical and the moderate perspective. This means that I'm anchoring myself in language that my moderate white community is likely to hear, even if it won't satisfy those with a radical vision. This straddling with one foot in the radical position and one oriented toward the moderate, I mean, it feels solid for me. It helps me to hold the tension in a stance that anchors to both a commitment to stand in solidarity and a dedication to my authentic truth. Have you ever experienced something like this, holding this kind of tension? Today, with the multiple ongoing crises our nation faces, all of us are asked to take a stand and to act in solidarity with those who are most impacted and most marginalized. We're called to a sense of moral clarity. We're called to support those who tell us what they need for their liberation. So what will you do? How will you humble yourself in the service of listening to the radical? How will you take your stand in solidarity with those who seek to transform our society? How will you contribute to the work of justice? My personal answer is to assert that we can stand in the position of yes. Yes to the radicals who protest and call for police abolition. Yes to the frustrated and vehement activists who disrupt LA Police Commission meetings. Yes to Antifa, who regularly docks the Nazis, exposing their real names to their employers, making their commitment to hate consequential for their lives. Holding a position of both and allows us to say yes to it all. And then we have to ask ourselves, what more can we do? If we have a sense of moral clarity, how can we stand for love and justice in a way that bridges our own divisions to connect all of us? We will need to develop this capacity to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Disagreements are going to remain. The tugs from different positions will continue. The chasm that exists between radical and moderate political positions hasn't fundamentally changed over decades. Critiques and judgments about where it is best for us to put our bodies will continue. And in the midst of it all, we can stand together. We can each strive to recognize the value of multiple truths and multiple pathways. We can become bridge builders that can help people in our spheres of influence appreciate those who are standing in different positions, doing different work. We can be purveyors of the deepest level of empathy that we can imagine. My friends at All Souls Church in Tulsa have used the phrase love beyond belief to capture the orientation. And just as many UU congregations work to love one another beyond any individual's personal belief system, so too can we love and support one another across our political positions. In fact, we must. If we can harness the power of a both and mindset, we will be able to stay engaged with those in our community who don't yet even recognize the need to act, and the activist who claims that there's only one right way, and the skeptic who views the world through a very different lens. Imagine with me that there's a racial justice freeway. On it are many different lanes, many ways to take action. Everyone on that freeway is valuable. We can support one another, regardless of which lane we occupy. And because the view looks different from the different lanes, we stay humble, ask questions, learn why people are moving as they are, so we can avoid running into each other, causing accidents, creating traffic jams. We also need as many on-ramps as possible. And with that, we uplift the value of the important work that goes on in the slow lane. The slow lane is where people new to these ideas first merge into the work. Supportive guidance and understanding helps people get along in there. It's from this position that we can explain what goes on in the faster lanes and why, reducing confusion and division. And that in and of itself is a valuable contribution. So I ask you, are you on the freeway? What lane are you in? My friends have called me a driver's ed teacher. I hang out in the slow lane a lot. Try to create on-ramps, and I try to dissuade people from heading for the exits when things get difficult, jammed up. I mean, accidents happen. It's expected. Now, obviously, this metaphor can go on and on. What I want to highlight is that holding this image of the freeway requires a both and mindset. The strategies for navigating the fast lane are valuable, and so are those that support people in the slow lane. Staying in relationship while we hold these multiple truths will allow us to have the moral clarity we need to choose love, the courage we need to navigate disagreements while staying in relationship, and the empathy we need to build collective strength. And with this, we can stand in solidarity even while we feel distanced from one another. I'll conclude with one more question. Wherever you have been on your life's journey, will you join me on the Racial Justice Freeway? Chalice has asked me to lead the four-part workshop series. It's Thursday nights in April, starting on the 1st. It's designed for those of us who identify as white to consider what it means to witness our own whiteness, to live in the tensions that come with working toward an effective anti-racist practice. It's about us growing together, using the both and to engage in difficult conversations, and in doing so, advancing our own skills, as well as bringing along others with us on the Racial Justice Freeway. Compassion, empathy, and love. I hope you'll join us. Thank you for listening to this message today, and it's been a real honor to be with you. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Shelly. My goodness, there's so much for us to think about and act on from your sermon. And I'm so grateful to you for serving as a bridge between that radical and moderate position and reminding us about both and also about the Racial Justice Freeway. I love that image, and I know I will hold that in mind as we do our work as a congregation and as I do my work too. So I invite you, if you'd like an on-ramp to doing more of this work, I really encourage you to sign up for Shelly's Witnessing Whiteness workshop, which starts in 2 weeks. And we're going to put the link again into our chat now so that you can just click on it and register. After today, we're going to be opening up registrations to Unitarian Universalist congregations around the state. So far, it's just open to this group. So if you'd like to ensure a space, we encourage you to sign up as soon as possible. Thank you. Thank you so much, Shelly, for talking about something that I know has been, I found very complicated, and you put really great words to it and ideas. I'm very grateful. My friends, please join us now for our closing hymn, inviting us to go together to a land where there's freedom, justice, love, and commitment for the important work of racial justice. Come and go with me to that land.
Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land. be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. Where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. Where I'm bound. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. Where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. Where I'm bound.
Hello. Hello, I'm Reverend Ann Hines. I'm serving currently the wonderful folks in Bakersfield at the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Kern County. I'm also Minister Emerita of Emerson UU Church in Canoga Park. And for our benediction, I offer you these words of Angela Herrera. Let us have the courage to go out into the world and change it. Let us speak out with courage and act with compassion. May our journeys be life-affirming and for justice, and may they always be done in the name of love. May it be so. Amen.
Amen. In a moment, we're going to extinguish our chalices together as we speak the words that will appear in the chat box. And then please stay after to hear all that's going on at Chalice and ways you can connect. And then we're going to socialize in our Zoom groups. And each congregation has its own post-service Zoom gathering. And we're going to post these Zoom links for the social hour in our chat now so that you can join your home congregation to check in after we extinguish our chalices. But first, please join me now for our chalice extinguishing words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you so much for joining us today. I invite you to go in peace, go in love, with a deep commitment to racial justice in your hearts. May it be so. And please join your congregation's Zoom rooms now. And for all our Chalice folk, please stay here with us. And I would like to share highlights of what's going on at Chalice this week. And please also consult your weekly news and notes. So next Saturday, March 20th, we're going to be holding Chalice's very first stuffy sleepover. Drop off one of your stuffed animals at Chalice and then join in on Zoom for stories, music, s'mores, and a dance party. Stuffies are going to spend the night in the sanctuary, and then we will join them the following morning for Children's Chapel via Zoom. This is going to be really fun and interactive time for all families, and yes, grown-ups, you can join in too. I know some of you have asked whether you can bring your stuffed animals too. So please look to the flyer in your email for further details. And if you've been fully vaccinated and would like to volunteer for this special event, please email our sleepover director, Sam Dickerson at dre@chaliceu.org. And also I invite you to save that evening, March 20th, for our spring equinox ritual with Darcy Lober at 7:30. And please contact her for more information. In the link, there's also more information in your news and notes. Now, if you're new to Chalice and you'd like to share more about yourself, we're going to be posting a link to a short survey in the chat now. Please click or save that link and then join a breakout with me so that we can get to know you better. And also, Shelly Tochluk is going to be in the Zoom room with me if you'd like to speak with her after the service too. I don't know if I told you that, Shelly, but I hope you can stay for that. So in a moment, we're going to break into today's Zoom rooms. They're going to be topic or affinity based. You can join whichever topic appeals to you most and click on that Zoom room by clicking on the breakout rooms icon below and then choosing your room. And once you see the room that you want, look at the icon that says the number of people in the room and click on that number, and that will allow you to join the room. So we're putting the list of breakout rooms in our chat now. And if you're having trouble, don't worry, just stick around and someone will help you get to the right room. Thank you so much for joining us today in this wonderful collaborative experiment. I wish you a blessed day and a beautiful week. And I now invite us to listen to our postlude by Anthony, after which we will go into our breakout Zoom rooms. Blessings to all.